Your average game of League of Legends can be very predictable. Now, there exist certain in-game timers where predictable things will happen in almost every single game that you play, and if you know what these timers are, you'll have a leg up over your opposition because you already know what is going to happen. Now, over a year ago, I popularized one of these timers in my video, Why Do Pro Players Recall Before 5 minutes 30? And that video went on to kickstart my channel, making over 20 times more viewers than my average video at the time, and I think I now finally understand why it did so well. You see, by identifying a key timer that is consistent across every game that you will ever play, like the now famous 5 minute 30 wave, you can learn something that is consistent, actionable, and easy to understand, which is where the video you're now watching comes into play. For this video, I've compiled a list of every single one of these must-know timers, and I'm going to go through them all, explain what they mean, and show you how by using these consistent timers, you can already know exactly what's going to happen next time you load up into a game and look at the game clock. I've also attached timestamps to the video, so if I start talking about a timer you already know, feel free to skip through onto the next one.
My name's Rogue and I played League of Legends professionally for 7 years. Now I'm a full-time content creator and coach for all ranks Iron through to Challenger. So if you want more information of what a coaching session with me will look like, you can find more information by following the link in the video description below.
And while you're in the description, you'll also find the link to my Patreon where I post all of the recordings of my best coaching sessions in full, with almost 1,000 hours of content currently available, all sorted by role and rank, including sessions where I coach for professional level teams. You can get a glimpse of what pro level league looks like from the inside. That's why whatever you're looking for, you'll easily be able to find something that's going to help you improve, no matter your rank. Now, starting us off at 2 minutes 30, and this is a big one. There is a lot happening at this time, and how this affects you depends on your lane. 2 minutes 30 is the timer in which a jungler has just finished clearing his camps on the one side of the map. He's hit level 3 and is crossing through to mid onto the other side of the map. Not just this though, but it also marks the beginning of the first possible gank timers that a jungler can do. 2 minutes 30 is a really important timer for all roles, but especially so for mid lane, because the jungler is already going to be crossing sides of the map to follow their camps, and a gank that takes them through mid lane on the way through is going to be completely optimal to the direction they're farming, meaning that it's very likely to happen and you need to prepare for it. But the way to prepare for it is very simple. If 2 minutes 30 they start to cross, they're ganking you by about 2:35, and all that means is that you have to place a ward before then to be safe against this. So we're looking at the wave now, this is wave number 2, and if you count out the time it takes you to crash 2 waves, here it is, we've just crashed wave 2 at 2 minutes 22, we have a good 10 to 15 seconds here before the gank lands. Akali has sufficient time to go place a ward so she can feel safe, and if we pan bot lane, this is exactly what the Nami is doing. She's played 2 waves, now she's going to go ward the river, and she's going to be completely safe against any gank to come. You can use 2:30 as a timer to track where the enemy jungler is exactly. If they don't show up for a gank shortly after this timer, you know they've crossed to the other side to continue farming and can play accordingly now that you know where they are. For mid and bot, it's a sign to get your early ward down if you need, but for top lane, around this timer, things actually work out a little bit differently. So we see this start out, Darius walks into lane and is completely zoning his opponent, and because he's winning so hard, he's able to zone K'Sante away and keep most of his minions alive up until that 2:30 timer. So we're just coming up on 2:30 now, Darius hits level 2, has a giant stacked up wave because he's protected it, and right about now is when the junglers are finishing their camps, but because we're in a side lane, it's going to take them another 10 to 15 seconds to get here. But solo laners hit level 3 off of the melees in this wave, meaning that it would be about now that Darius would be getting hit by a 3 camp gank. Look at the state of this lane. Now in this case, Darius is level 3 versus 1. Usually it's 3 versus 2. But with a level 3 advantage on a strong early game conqueror champion like Darius, inside of a cannon wave, you can usually win 2v1 because with level 3 and a cannon minion versus junglers who, again, don't buy starting items, most of the time you don't actually need an early ward to survive the 2:30 gank if you win the first 2 waves hard enough. Next up, we're looking at 3:30. Now 3:30 is the timer when a jungler has just finished their full clear and is either ganking you or taking the scuttle crab which spawns on the same timer. If the enemy jungler hasn't shown yet, this timer is a guaranteed gank. The jungler has just hit level 4 and literally has no camps left to farm, so if they start at topside level 1, then you know they're going to be ganking your bot lane at 3:30. What makes this timer become really interesting though, is the way that pro players manage their waves around it. This 3:30 timer is most important used in top and bot because they're the side lane roles. That's where the jungler finishes the full clear, and that's where he's going to be generally ganking, so you want to know when he's coming. But not just for this reason, you also want to know how to manage your wave early in support of this Scuttle Crab. So the Scuttle Crab is actually going to spawn when the 5th minion wave arrives of the game. So right now we've been watching top lane, we've just had wave number 2 arrive. Wave number 3 is coming out, it's going to be the cannon wave, so here it is, we're going to take this one. Generally, we're going to crash wave number 3 into tower. You can't really stack it longer than that, unless you're really doing well. And here we go, we crash wave number 3 as wave number 4 arrives, but we're not quite at 3 minutes 30 yet. But just hold on a second, and watch what happens over the next 30 seconds to this minion wave. So it gets cleared out of the tower, we're coming up on 3 minutes 30, and right about now is where that crab is spawning. Darius is in a way better position here to support his jungler because of 2 reasons. So number 1, he's the first to move. The wave is closer to K'Sante's tower, which means that Darius can run there more quickly, when K'Sante will just be following behind or have to take the long way. So he's going to be the first to move, meaning he has priority, but he also has the wave coming back into him. And this is good, because at this moment, with the wave pushing this way, it means red team minions are the ones that are dying quickly. If both top laners go to the Scuttle Crab fight and run around in circles for a full minute, K'Sante is going to lose 2 full waves as this wave stacks going towards Darius. And at the end of the fight, our Darius player can walk back to top and catch 2 stacked up waves and get most of the minions. Next up, we have 4 minutes 20, and this one's a quick one. 4 minutes 20 is the timer when a jungler's first camp will respawn if they start on red or blue buff level 1, which is generally what's going to happen in low elo solo queue. It's good to know this timer because again, we can use it to track the enemy jungler's location even if we don't see them. If we see the enemy jungler start at bot side with a leash level 1, but otherwise he never shows on vision again, we can still fully track him using the timers we've learnt today. 2:30, that jungler crosses mid and goes onto top side. 3:30, he finishes his full clear and starts on the crab in top river. Shortly after that, he recalls, and by 4 minutes 20, he's back bot side waiting for his first camp to respawn. Imagine how much easier it's going to be able to play your lane now with just these 3 starting timers I've given you. You literally know when the enemy jungler is near your lane and when they're on the opposite side of the map, and you can now play accordingly. Now for the timer we all know and love, the 5 minute 30 wave. As I mentioned in the intro, I have an entire video already dedicated about just this timer, and I'll leave a link to it in the video description below. You should absolutely watch it after this one, but I'm still going to briefly explain it here. Now up until 5 minutes, top and mid tower have a buff that makes them take massively reduced damage. This used to be 50% reduced damage, but now is 75% less damage that you deal to the tower, meaning it's not even worth trying to hit the tower up until this debuff falls off. But once you hit 5 minutes 30, the debuff is off and there's going to be a cannon wave. Now that the towers are taking full damage, we can see why this 530 wave can be so useful. So this 530 wave doesn't just mark when the towers take full damage, but it marks an important cannon wave. Now I'm always going to get level 6 by the cannon creep. Even if I've lost a full wave of XP, it just gives so much golden XP on the cannon that I'll hit level 6, and with level 6 I have a very high possibility to get a solo kill or make a play on my opponent. Now that the tower is taking full damage and I have a cannon creep with me, I can whack away at the tower after getting this kill. And because I have a cannon creep with me that tanks 8 tower shots, I have so much time to just whack away at this tower and enjoy myself. So in a hypothetical situation where I get a solo kill, my reward for that solo kill is massively heightened now. I not only deny a cannon minion from my opponent, which is about half a level of XP at this point, but I'm also able to whack the tower away with my cannon creep, and in this situation, I deny a full cannon wave and get 3 turret plates. And I really want to emphasize this, that this 530 wave is probably the biggest timer in the entire game, so go check out the video I already made on it. It's probably the best video on my entire channel. Next up, we have a timer that isn't as much of a fixed timer, but is more so of a benchmark that marks a transition in the pace that the game is played. We're talking about 8 minutes or so, maybe slightly after. This is the game time where it is now possible for everyone in the game to be level 6, and it marks a new period in the game where the way that most roles are played massively changes. First, we're starting with mid lane. Now 8 minutes is an extremely important timer for mid laners because it's about the time that you get level 7, and level 7 is a really important breakpoint in your wave clear. So check this out. Ahri's level 7 with some pretty standard items, and she's got 4 points in her Q, and 4 is the magic number here for most wave clear mages, even assassins like Talon with her W. Ahri walks up to this wave and throws a Q. How long do you think it took Ahri to kill that wave? Maybe 5 seconds. And this is where the fun begins. Ahri has 30 seconds between waves. That's how often a wave arrives, and it only took her 5 seconds to kill the previous one, which leaves her with 25 seconds of free time. Ahri can go anywhere, she can do anything, and Singed is standing right here. We have 25 seconds to work with. Let's keep that number in our head. At that timer, we have to be back, which means we get to walk up or down river for half of this amount. So let's say 12 seconds. So we get to walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This far. We can walk this far to what I call our point of no return. And at that moment, we can check if it's worth roaming to top lane to make a kill or a dive. And if it's not, we can turn around and come back, kill a wave in 5 seconds, and do the exact same thing. Come back, push a wave, do the exact same thing. And a very important distinction to make here is that if we have enough pink wards in our side lane bushes, our opponent doesn't know that we've turned around. They see us for 5 seconds mid lane and poof, we disappear. We go up, we walk to our point of no return and turn around, but even 25 seconds later until we show on the following mid wave, they might just think we're about to dive top. But the role that probably changes the most due to this 8-minute timer would probably be jungle, because it completely skewers the risk reward in favor of ganking as opposed to farming. So what I mean by that is jungle is a role that is very much defined by taking camps and getting XP early. You have to be efficient with your plays. But now that we're level 6, this sort of goes out the window a bit. So let's just analyze the scoreboard real quick. My Vladimir has 3 kills, their Lucian is 0-3 with no summoners, and I'm Volibear with my ultimate. If I go top, do I get a kill? Yeah, like, no doubt. I could literally kill him under his tower. There is 0% chance he lives. So when I look over and see my wolves, sequencing doesn't feel as valuable to me anymore, because I can get a guaranteed kill top. It's not even a risk, and what I get from the kill top is guaranteed, but also carries a higher reward than my wolves. So what I actually do is I time my ganks not around my camps, but around my Vladimir's arrival time. There's no point going top after Raptors because he's not there yet, so I have time for red. But if I want to be there when he gets to lane, I don't have time for another camp, and it doesn't even give me a level up. So I'm going to go now, and voila, within 5 seconds of going top lane, I get a kill. This is where the fun begins though. Because my top laner is so far ahead, and because I'm playing faster, I now gain access to what I call multi-part plays. So Lucian has now died. I'm going to take the time to do this blue buff while I'm here because it gives me level 7, but oh no, Lucian just TP back, whatever will we do? Well, because we're so far ahead, off the first play, I still don't have to recall, so I can just go ahead and make a second play. So now instead of doing wolves, I've chained together 2 kills, denied Lucian from getting probably 2 or 3 waves, and now my Vladimir gets to whack away on this tower and take a ton of tower damage. Really good for him, right? Alright, so I actually went mid and had some fun, did some ganks, but honestly, there's something I got to do here, and that's the Void Grubs. There is so much to do at this point in the game where it's more volatile and things carry a higher reward. So I'm going to go take these Void Grubs right in front of their face, and now that I've taken the Void Grubs, my Vladimir gets another solo kill. Good job, Vlad, but my god, with how far ahead on top side I am, even with almost 3,000 gold, the multi-part play continues. I don't have to base, so now I get to go mess with Maokai, push him out of his top jungle, which leaves time for my Vladimir to keep working on that top tower, and hey, it's 4 minutes later from where we started this replay. Lucian has died 3 times, he's probably lost about 5 waves, he lost 4 plates, and a tower. And you can see why this dynamic shift exists. None of these plays that I'm doing are possible when I'm level 3. But now that I'm level 6 and I have more tools at my disposal, and I have laners that are really far ahead like my Vladimir, the risk reward for ganks begins to skew way more in my favor, and my gank timers aren't defined by my camps, they're defined by things like my level ups and when my laners are ready. Now we're finally leaving the early game and beginning our look at mid game, which is easily defined by a number, 14. At 14 minutes, mid game strictly begins, and you should start to consider the idea of swapping your bot lane to mid. But here's a question for you. Do you actually know why you swap your bot lane to mid? Well, there are several reasons. Now, there are 2 main reasons why you want to swap your bot lane to mid in the mid game, starting at around 14 minutes, and I'm going to go through both of them. But to start with, the first reason is because ADC-style champions don't like being in a long lane where they can easily be chased down with space behind them, especially in mobile champions like Kog'Maw and Lulu. So if we pan our camera over to mid and we see the distance between the 2 towers is about this long, and if we overlay that onto bot lane, there's a lot of extra space here, which means that if Kog'Maw's trying to take this bot tower, and there's a TP behind him and Darius running at him with Ghost and an Echo chasing him down, there's a long way to go before he gets to safety, and enemies can easily come behind him. So it's much safer to put him mid in a shorter lane where there's less distance for him to get to safety. But 14 minutes marks a very important distinction on when he needs to go there, because if you look at how towers work, 14 minutes is also the timer where plates fall. So let's check out this game state right now. Right, Kog'Maw has 5 kills, is the most fed person in the game. Ryze, our mid laner, is 0-2. Who do you think is better at keeping the mid tower alive? The Kog'Maw, right? Watch what happens to this tower. So we're just before 14 minutes right now, and the tower has 95 armor. Towers gain armor when they become lower health with plates, but watch, it just fell off completely. The tower went to a base armor of 40, and it will never gain that armor back again, meaning that before 14 minutes, if your mid laner dies, they lose a plate or two. It's not so bad. But if Ryze dies just once, this tower dies, and our lane goes from being this long to becoming this long. And once our Kog'Maw eventually swaps their later, if he does so in a few minutes' time, he's not going to be enjoying that when he spends the entire game getting flanked. And this is exactly what happens. Ryze is not doing well, and so eventually, when he dies, the enemy Lux, who gets to whack away at the tower, I mean, even without Lux hitting it, she still does meaningful tower damage. We're still fast-forwarding, Kog'Maw should have been here a few minutes ago, and we're constantly running risk that next time this Ryze dies, which is bound to happen, there you go, now Lux gets to whack away on the tower, and it just takes one wave to break a tower now. We're very lucky that Brand came to cover this, but it's slowly losing health, and any one of these days, that tower is going to fall, and if we swap there after it's already dead, how are we going to contest Pryor now? Because in order for Kog'Maw to contest Pryor, he now has to stand here, with ample space for people to come behind him, ample space for people to chase him down with Ghost, and he's no longer safe in the one place where he should be. Now for a really cool timer, and this one is a little bit theoretical. 14:30. This is a timer that was made by a fellow coach and one of my friends, Scuffy, so all of the credit for this idea goes to him. But Scuffy had the great idea of using 14:30 as a break wave. So as we discussed earlier, towers become a lot more vulnerable to damage after 14 minutes when the plates fall off and they lose their armor. And at 14:30, a cannon wave arrives, which provides an amazing opportunity to break the enemy's mid tier 1 tower, if you catch them off guard. So imagine this. You intentionally recall just before 14 minutes, and your opponent is forced to match your base. Now at 14:30, you show up in force with your team fresh off a base, and start sieging down the mid tower with that newly arrived cannon creep. The cannon creep is important here. We just saw a level 7 Ahri kill an entire wave in just one Q, so we need the durability of this cannon minion in order to break down that tower, otherwise it'll just get wave cleared by one champion. But with enough coordination, this could be an amazing strategy that'll help you break open the map and make mobile ADC champions on the other team hate you until the end of time. For our final timer of the video, we're in the end game now, 30 minutes and onwards. Once we get past 30 minutes, macro sort of becomes unnecessary, and it's just about winning fights now. The death timers are upwards of 50 seconds, and most champions are coming up on their 4th item, meaning at any point you are just 1 or 2 fights away from winning or losing the game. You just have to kill enough people. The advice I give to my students once they hit this 30-minute timer is really easy. Macro just isn't necessary anymore. You don't need fancy multi-lane setups and complexity to win. You just have to take out 3 to 4 enemies, run up mid, and end the game. I made an entire video on the phenomenon of low games always lasting about 35 minutes because of exactly this reason. You just don't need good macro to win anymore once you get past this timer, which is why in Bronze, where they don't have good macro, the games always go for about this long. I'll leave a link to that video in the description of this one, so you can go check it out right now. Those are all the timers I have for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the YouTube comments below, or maybe you can even find the answer to those questions by checking out a session over on my Patreon. Thanks everyone for watching, my name's Rogue, I'll see you in the next one.